The longer I live in Oregon, the more of a Pacific Northwest stereotype I become. Summer and fall travel for me is often focused around outdoor adventures. I was putting this video together and realized a theme and decided to run with it. So today we are covering some of my favorite travel gear for your outdoor adventures. Up first, we have the Nitecore EMR10 Mosquito Repeller. Having grown up in Michigan and now living in Oregon, I've lived my entire life in two of the most mosquito-infested areas of the country. I've been using the EMR10 since last summer and it has been really nice. I've used thermocells in years past and I really don't like the fuel canisters. They're proprietary, they run out, they're annoying. It's another item you have to stock. This is kind of really similar to the thermocell units if you've used or heard of those, but instead of fuel canisters, it runs on battery power. To give Thermacell some credit, I have seen that they have a similar version of this that also runs on batteries as well, but I definitely prefer the battery options to the fuel options. This uses a pretty similar blue repellent mat that you slide in. The heating coils heat it up and it creates a 16-foot radius around this thing that is mostly free of mosquitoes. In my experience, it does work pretty well, even in pretty extremely infested areas. This provides a significant amount of relief, so it has become very invaluable on my camping trips, especially for car camping trips where weight is less of a concern. It also has a feature that emits an ultrasonic frequency in addition to whatever the chemical pad that gets heated up. I usually use both simultaneously, so I can't say to how that works individually on its own, but together as a whole package, it has been proven effective for me. It weighs about 150 grams, so it's not too heavy. It's IPX5 rated, so it's going to be able to be used out in the rain if you need to. It also has an OLED display with the runtime, which is really convenient, and one little extra feature that they've added in is it does operate as a power bank. If you need to charge your phone in case of emergency or something like that, it's always good to have those doubled up extra type of items. It runs on two 21700 battery cells, so those are great too. They're replaceable, so you're not going to have to throw away the unit if the batteries go over time. Easily swap out the batteries and keep this thing going. A really invaluable piece of camping gear if you spend any time outdoors in really bad mosquito areas like I do in Michigan and Oregon. Next up on the list, we have one of my favorite hoodies and mid-layer options for hiking and camping. This is the Appalachian Gear Company Alpaca hoodie. This is a loose knit hoodie made entirely out of alpaca wool. Alpaca wool is really great if you're not familiar. It has a really great warmth to weight ratio. It's insulating when wet, which can be really invaluable if you're out in the cold. You know, you can make for some really easily dangerous situations with hypothermia and stuff. So you want to be able to look for those things when you're picking out mid layers and insulating layers when you're spending time outdoors. Appalachian Gear Company is based in North Carolina, I believe, a really small outfit. They make everything in the United States. All the alpaca wool is ethically sourced from Peru, but they do make the fabric itself in-house, which is awesome. One of the best things about alpaca wool is it really doesn't smell. I've had this for over a year and have never washed it. So maybe that's disgusting, I don't know, but it doesn't smell at all even after a year of wearing it. Definitely proof that the alpaca wool claims are true, at least in my eyes. Just a really great hoodie from a really nice small company made in the United States. Great material, really can't recommend it enough. Next item on the list, we have the ElementProof AirPods Pro case from Keybudz. Keybudz is actually nice enough to be sponsoring this week's video as well, so a huge thanks to them. The ElementProof case is an IP68 fully waterproof case for your AirPods Pro. If you're doing any kind of adventures outside, you want to be mindful not to ruin your electronics. When I saw this, I hadn't really seen anything else on the market like it, so I was really fascinated to test and try it out, and so far all of the tests have been great. The exterior shell is a polycarbonate, so it's really great for drop protection. It also has ion pure on the outside to prevent any sort of fungus or bacteria growth on the case itself. And also the case material is made from 70% recycled materials, which is always great to see. It uses a locking mechanism called Hydrolock. You just flip this open on the side and then it flips out. With that closed, it creates a full seal around the case itself. The most interesting feature for me with the case was the fact that you still have access to see the charging light and you still have access to the speakers to use for notifications when you're charging and to use the Find My app. It has what they call a hydro mesh material over the speaker, so it's able to let sound out but not let water inside. I've tested the case myself and submerged my AirPods just to test and make sure everything works before I talk about it for all of you. I've also tested the speakers. They still work with the case on, and you can see that charging indicator light, which is great. The case does also still support Qi wireless charging, and you do have access to the lightning port on the exterior if you want to charge it that way as well. And included with the case, you get this really nice CNC milled aluminum carabiner to attach and clip things to if you want to throw it on the outside of your pack. Overall, just a really interesting idea and executed in a way I haven't seen before. Be sure to check it out. It's the AirPods Pro ElementProof case from Keybudz. Huge thanks again to them for sponsoring this week's video. Next item on the list is the FJ Dynamics Pony 500 watt-hour battery. I'm really excited to finally have my hands on one, and this one really stood out as a unique option when I first saw it. First and foremost, it's 500 watt-hours like I said, but this thing is downright tiny compared to other 500 watt-hour batteries that I've seen on the market. It's able to recharge at 100 watts in 5 hours. It uses NMC batteries instead of lithium ion, which tend to have a lot longer of a lifespan as well, something that really stood out to me because I've been shopping for these for quite some time. It's also IPX4 rated, so it's going to be dust and splash resistant, kind of a necessity if you're using any sort of electronics outdoors. It also is completely noise free when operating, which is a huge plus. I like enjoying my quiet when I'm outdoors. The operating temperature range was another huge pull for this. A lot of times I'm doing cold weather winter camping out of my car where I would be using a bigger battery like this. It'll work properly from -4 degrees up to 130 degrees. I've had so many batteries just completely crap out on me in the cold. When it gets down into the teens and the single digits, a lot of stuff just doesn't work properly. So really great to see a really big range in temperature. Regarding the I/O options, I think that is the one area where this might be a little lacking. I would love to see just a proper AC wall plug, and that's something that you don't have on this one, unfortunately. You do have a USB-C port here that's in and out at 100 watts. You also have another 100 watt USB-C port here, a 65 watt USB-C port, and two 18 watt USB-A ports. So that is kind of the one downside with having such a nice, small, and compact form factor is you lose out on a little bit of the I/O. I'd love to see, a 500 watt capable AC plug on here, maybe a couple more USB-C ports, but if that's something you can live without, I think all in all, you have a really nice package here. It's worked really well for me. Next up on the list is from my backpacking kit. This is my main backpacking backpack, and this is the REI Flash 55 pack. I don't talk about my backpacking gear all too often here. If you do want to see like a full loadout, over the past few years, I've gotten really into it and feel like I have my kit dialed in pretty well. So if that's something you'd like to see in a future video, let me know. But the pack here I thought would make a good addition in this roundup here because I've used this since spring of 2021. Dozens of nights on trail, hundreds, probably thousands of miles at this point, and it has been such an amazing bag for me, especially considering the pricing compared to a lot of other options. Obviously, the Flash 55 is a 55-liter capacity bag. The weight comes out to 2 pounds 13 ounces with the full everything attached. I actually stripped mine down. I took the top brain off and I took a few other straps and things off that I didn't really need and got it to just a little over 2 pounds. I really wanted an ultralight pack but still have a pretty good substantial frame. It uses a 100D ripstop nylon on the main body and a 210D ripstop on the bottom portion here. It's held up really well to a lot of scrapes over the years for me. Oregon is littered with downed trees all over the place. So I'm constantly scraping and scuffing this thing all over the place, and it's held up really well. I've personally tested it up to about 40 pounds, carrying in a ton of water for some dry camping I was doing. So for me, with my, almost ultralight kit, this is more than enough carrying capacity that I need for most any situation. One other thing worth mentioning is the water bottle pockets. You have this sort of extra in between the hip belt and the side pockets. You have this little pouch here that will fit water bottles. This makes water bottle access really easy when you're hiking, which is a complete deal breaker for me when I've tested other packs in the past. I don't have a lot of really good reach to get up into these higher pockets, and having this here just makes it really nice and easy. I think it also changes the way that the weight is displaced too, having it closer to your body on your side. really great, and that was probably my one feature why I have refused to change this out so far. Pricing for this is at $200 full price, but they run sales on REI branded products all the time. I think I got mine in 2021 for like $120, something like that. So check some sales if you need a good backpacking pack. That thing has been just so good for me, especially considering the price. There are some other options that I want to try, but spending double or triple the price is kind of a tough pill to swallow when this has been such a workhorse for me. Next item on the list, we have the Bellroy Cooler Tote. I showed you all of the smaller version of this, the Cooler Caddy. I love having those smaller coolers that you can fit inside of a backpack, but sometimes you need a bigger cooler. These little cooler totes are always really nice. I just got back from a beach day with some friends. We used this. It kept all of our stuff nice and cool. The cooler tote is a 16-liter capacity. It has a padded and flat structured bottom, which is really nice. It uses a 3M thin insulation that's 83% recycled materials. The exterior here is 100% recycled material, which is great. They just came out with this arcade gray color, so I got a few items in the arcade gray. It looks awesome, I think. Something else I really like about the totes and stuff like this is that it is kind of compressible and foldable, so you don't need to be worrying about carrying hard-sided coolers unless you need, something cooled for days at a time. Any sort of outdoor day trips or car rides, things like that, this comes in handy, and it's just way more convenient than hard-sided coolers. Not much else to say about it though. Everyone knows what coolers do. This one has been really good for me, and I would definitely recommend it if that size would be a better option for you. Next up on the list is the Vissel Java Coffee Grinder. I've had this for a while. I've talked about it a couple times in the past, but just in case you missed those videos, this is hands down the best hand grinder I've ever used for coffee. It has become an invaluable piece of my kit for camping and any sort of regular travel as well. The biggest standout with this compared to other grinders I've tried in the past is the build quality. This thing is built like a tank. There's just a level of polish and quality to the manufacturing that I have not seen anywhere else. This thing looks great. It feels bomb-proof in the construction. Just overall build quality and polish is just 10 out of 10. It uses conical burr grinders as well, which is a must if you're a coffee enthusiast like myself. But it has a 20-gram grind capacity, which is perfect for single cup use. That's typically what I'll use for my AeroPress, so I don't even really need to measure when I'm out camping. I can gauge based on how full it is with beans. The grinding is super smooth and nice. Overall, like I said, just really polished, makes really good uniform quality grinds. It is so perfect in my eyes. I love everything about it. Talking safety for the next item, we have the Garmin InReach satellite communicator. I've had this for a few years now. I do a lot of solo trips out of cell service, and my wife gets worried about me. And honestly, the older I get, the more my mortality reminds me that it is there. So I like to be safe when I'm out and exploring the outdoors and hiking and backpacking and doing all of that sort of stuff. The InReach Mini is about 3.5 ounces or 100 grams. It has an SOS button if you get injured and you're out of cell service. A really invaluable, literally life and death type of feature. I had actually thought about selling this when they first announced on the iPhone that they were going to do the satellite communication through the phone. But as that feature has been out for a bit, hearing stories about it, testing and trying, the testing feature of it myself, it just doesn't seem like it has the reliability and the same amount of, thorough easiness that this does to trust my life with it. So I'm going to be continuing to use this and bring it with me on all of my adventures, especially the solo ones. On top of the emergency use, it's also really nice to be able to text your loved ones just to let them know, I got to camp, I'm alive, all of that sort of stuff. And I have the version 1 that uses micro USB, but they do have a version 2 out with significantly better battery life and USB-C charging. I haven't been able to justify the upgrade cost since I already bought one. I don't want to buy a second one quite yet, but you might be able to find a deal on the version 1 if you don't care about micro USB, but I would definitely recommend picking up the version 2 instead if you have the option of both and budget doesn't really matter. That was the last item on the list. I really hoped you enjoyed this roundup. I wasn't really planning to do outdoor travel gear when I first started planning this video, but I saw a theme and decided to run with it as I was getting items together. Let me know if you've had any outdoor adventures for this past summer. If you have anything coming up, I'd love to hear about it. I have got one big backpacking trip planned for next month. I'm really looking forward to. I haven't been able to get out as much this year as I would have hoped, so I'm gonna make this one count. Thank you all so much for watching though, and I'll talk to you in the next one.